Magazine. I am joined by the amazing Rachel Dobson, who is our celebrity editor at Psychologies. Welcome, Rachel. Lovely to see you here. Hello.
Hi.
Hello. It's the first day of lockdown, Rachel, and I'm coming to you today because you also review our podcast. So I wanted some fantastic podcast recommendations for you, but I also wanted to thank you for your fantastic interview with Ruby this month. I know that you went to interview her and you learned lots from her. You've also interviewed the wonderful Katie Piper, and well, all of our celebrities this year. So thanks so much for doing that. It's absolutely brilliant.
It's an absolute pleasure.
At the beginning of this year, we didn't expect the global pandemic to take over our lives. So you've been in a strange position of interviewing celebrities all over the world for Psychologies magazine. What are you learning from them about how to handle this weird and wonderful time?
It's been so interesting because we're fortunate that we have these celebrities who want to talk to Psychologies magazine because they love the publication. And what I've really learnt is these people are incredibly successful. I sat in Ruby Wax's garden and looked up at her massive house in Notting Hill, and really she has everything. The interior's beautiful, everything's gorgeous and beautiful. But she said when she went out and did the NHS clap, she met her neighbours for the first time. And while she's had different communities throughout her different careers, because she's really moved through life doing very, very different things, going from being a comedian to going to Oxford University, to being this amazing author, now she just relishes the thought of having a community around her. And her drive is about connection with people and meaning. And I think it's really amazing to hear these really successful women talk about the connection that they're craving with other people, and to go in to not being driven by ambition and money, but to simplify life and to connect to people within their local community, or creating a community that's online but like-minded. And Ruby, especially, she spoke a lot about finding a common purpose. So whatever that purpose is, it's very useful to have one thing that community is aiming for. And that might be an eco thing. It might be that you all like the same books. It doesn't really matter what the purpose is, but that's what can bring people together. And I'm talking to this massively successful woman, and she's talking to me about litter picking in Devon or whatever it is. And I just find that really refreshing, because I think we can all do that. We all have neighbours and we all have people around us, and we can connect to those people. And I think that's been really insightful from those really successful women who I've spoken to.
Yeah, just at 1 o'clock. So for lockdown, Psychologies, we're going to flood this feed with incredibly inspirational and brilliant experts. We're calling it Beat Anxiety Lockdown Special. So we're going to just try and support as many people in many countries as possible. So if you're joining us from lots of countries, say hi, come and talk to us. I can see the comments coming through now. So hello everybody, lovely to see you all. Thank you for joining us. But it's right, this idea of community right now, as the UK goes into lockdown for another 30 days, how can we reach out? How can we connect? How can we find people to help? So, we're only supposed to meet one person outside, in the UK, but how can we make that connection count? How can we create a meaningful communication with other people? It's really important. I know that you interviewed Katie Piper for us earlier in the year, and now I find Katie's now a columnist for the magazine, because we were so impressed. We were both at the photo shoot, weren't we? And we were so impressed by her.
She's I don't know, I know you've listened to her podcast as well, and that really reveals how insightful she is and what a great interviewer she is, and how she really can connect to people. Because I think she's really humble. I think she comes from a really humble place, and I think that's a very attractive place to come from. And that makes her connections really genuine and it is lovely, isn't it, to talk to her and to meet her.
Yeah, I mean, and she asks great questions. So I think her podcast is called Inspirational People.
Extraordinary People.
Extraordinary People, that's right.
Yeah.
And she's interviewing all of these really extraordinary people who've done amazing things and who are really inspirational. So you listen to it and you know, in terms of perspective, I mean, you know, Katie's a businesswoman. She's, you know, a writer, an author. She's got a TV presenter, all of those things. And that's how she defines herself. She refuses to be defined. You know, she was a rape victim.
Yeah.
She had this horrific experience of an ex-boyfriend throwing acid in her face. She refused to be defined by it, and she has created this amazing, wonderful career, new platform, everything. And it's just, for me, it's like perspective. You know, that she's leading from the front. You know, she's somebody who does that, and I just absolutely adore that. I love that because it's real and it's authentic.
And because she is so authentic, she has a massive range of people on that podcast. So she'll talk to people who she'll say, you wouldn't realise they'll be in front of you in the supermarket queue, but they are extraordinary people who've done incredible things. And I think that's the magic in it, isn't it? So that's a great thing to listen to during podcasts, if you're during lockdown, if you've got time, a little bit extra time, a little bit peace and quiet when you can tune into a podcast. It's really inspiring stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you're our podcast editor as well. I know that you're reviewing all the podcasts for us day in, day out. What so that Katie's Extraordinary People is a podcast we'd like. What podcast did you say, oh, you've got to listen to this? What is it? What?
There's such a range of them. There's such a massive range. So Chris Evans recently downloaded a whole season of podcasts, and he is interviewing mostly celebrities. And it's quite funny because they're quite chummy sort of chats because they're all mates and they're all of an era. If anybody remembers, you know, TGI Friday or The Big Breakfast and all that, there's kind of friends from way back. But you know what? 20 years have passed. So those people's lives have changed a lot. Everyone's had ups and downs. And of course, he's been in and out of their lives the whole way. And so it's quite an intimate conversation, and he doesn't want to be edited. So some of them are like up to 2 hours long. So again, if you've got the time because you're, you know, around a little bit more, they're really good ones to listen to. And I don't know what happened to him. Did he find God? I don't know what happened to Chris Evans. There's something, he's coming from a really different place with these interviews. But I quite like it. I think
yeah, he has been transformed. I mean, his radio station, Virgin Radio, we listen to it every morning. I love him. You know, he's gone from, you know, from when we were journalists, we were the Ladette culture, and, you know, we're all, you know, drinking a lot and smoking and carrying on. You know, it was, you know, Sarah Cox and Zoe Ball and that area when we were, you know, and we've all transformed. But I mean, Chris is just doing such an amazing job. He's in, you know, asking really brilliantly inspirational question, and there's real depth there. You know, I suppose it's, I mean, again, like Russell Brand. You know, these people who've had, what's interesting about it, the only thing that I find interesting about fame is that they've had, you know, they're everything that you think you want that's going to make you happy, fame and fortune and fast cars and all the things that we thought, okay, let's do all of that. They've had all of that and they go, oh, okay, you know.
Actually, I just want to walk my dog in the woods.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's what Ruby says in the interview. Is that the place she is in a little like a simple house,
a little pod. She writes in a pod in a field,
and that's when you're happiest. So I mean, so it's interesting. I think with lockdown, I think there's very much a kind of a leveling thing, because it doesn't matter how rich you are, it doesn't matter how famous you are, you know, you've got to, you know, it's about connection. And of course, for many of us that, you know, we haven't got their wealth, and you know, I think it's very hard and very difficult, you know, to get through this lockdown when we're worried about our jobs or being made redundant, or money, whatever. So have you, you know, listening to any of the podcasts or any of the celebrities, are there any, you know, any sort of things that would help with that? I know, I mean, at Psychologies, we've done lots of dossiers.
Yeah, and I think those are really helpful.
Yeah,
I think those are really helpful, and I think as well, there's a lot of small business podcasts, or even just podcasts encouraging people to, try a side hustle, try a new business. If you are on furlough, you might be getting some salary, you might be working part-time, and if you've got a little pocket of extra time to pursue something that you're really interested in. And recently I've been enjoying a really good podcast from the lady who put together Not on the High Street, and is now doing, I've forgotten her name, she's now got a new podcast.
Is it Holly?
Holly Tucker, yeah, it's Holly and Co. That's it. Well done. And she's interviewed lots of female entrepreneurs about how they got started, and her big stories about starting, at the kitchen table. And I think that whilst the celebrities may have the wealth and the fame and the fortune, I think that asking for help when you're starting a new business, reaching out to other people who've done it, is all about building those connections again in a different community, and that can all be done virtually. A lot of it's free. There's people have just set up businesses from the Google search bar, just going through YouTube, learning things, and that's all to be encouraged, isn't it, in this time?
Yeah, I mean, whether it's, being redundant or you creating a side hustle. I mean, we've been part of the Women in Business last month, or online. It was amazing. We did a whole dossier about it. And there was so much support in about creating whatever it is. I mean, so I feel like really not very techy, but even little by bit, I do this and I learn that. It's really amazing. So again, and what that does, it helps you feel empowered. So I think when a big pandemic like this is happening, when we're this out of our control, there's nothing we can do about it. And when it's really affecting us financially, it can make, it can have a massive impact on, how we're going to live our lives. So if you can listen to these podcasts and see if you can come up with ideas or side hustle ideas, all of a sudden you become empowered. And I think throughout this lockdown, if we can go from this idea of feeling disempowered, like a victim, to feeling empowered and, okay, let's focus on what we can control, that is so important, And
I think as well, at the moment, we're saying it's going to be a 4-week lockdown. And I think, we're both journalists. There's nothing like a deadline. We love a deadline. But maybe to do those baby steps, every Monday you do this, every Wednesday you do that, every Friday you do that. And it definitely asking for help, because I think people react if you ask them for help quite positively. And to have a 4-week just try something and see what happens. What's the harm? It could be a really interesting exploration, couldn't it, into who knows what.
Yeah, I did a brilliant interview with an improviser called Max Dickens. He's in the theatre, and he talked about all the time when they're improvisers, like, have you got news for you, or whatever it's called, when they're on stage.
No, whose line is it anyway?
Anyway, they do that, and he says it's when someone gives you a gift. And the last interview we did at 1:00 today was all about how do you deal with disappointment. And this wonderful expert, Susie Ashworth, said it's seeing everything as a gift, even, and it's difficult. I mean, it's very difficult when people are losing, their relatives. How can you possibly see that as a gift? But it's about, okay, how can we use something to reframe it in a way that, from my darkest times have come my greatest growth. That's what I know. And
that's really powerful.
We both kind of admitted on the call together at 1:00 that we both lost our parents, her foster parents and my parents, when we were teenagers. And that for us was, our whole world was devastated overnight. And what happened is that from that has become our whole career, our whole purpose and meaning, everything. I mean, of course, no one would wish that on anyone. But at the same time, you don't know where life this and in a way, we don't know where this pandemic is going to take us.
We don't.
It's about being open, isn't it? Open to seeing what the opportunities might be. And again, not coming from this is going to destroy me to you know, where is the growth here? What can I focus on?
And it is definitely that attitude. Because I don't know how you felt when they announced this second lockdown. But I felt really, really down. I felt really sad.
I did. I felt very low. Yeah.
And then I kind of thought, when I can think of it in this small section, Lord knows who knows if it's going to be 4 weeks or however long. But if I can get my head around 4 weeks and make a plan and turn it on its head, and like you say, see it as an opportunity rather than just giving up and going under the duvet for 4 weeks.
No, absolutely. So, I mean, the magazine is full of self-care
tips.
So, there's so much. So the one thing I would say to everybody who's listening to this broadcast is, what can you do to create to look after ourselves and other people? So what is the self-care you can put in place for yourself in terms of, so I do my Wim Hof breathing. I interviewed Wim Hof the other day, the Iceman, who was brilliant. It's amazing. So it really energizes me. So Wim Hof breathing, I meditate, I journal, I get it all out, all my negativity, I write it out. These are my self-care practices. But it might be just having a really lovely cup of tea in the morning. It might be putting a plant by your bedside. It's the small, everybody we've ever interviewed for the magazines, it's the small things. How it's not the big things, it's the small things. So what's a self-care regime that you can do? And then, like what we talked about earlier, how can we look after other people?
I think it's such a big one.
Yeah, how can we be of service to other people, to our community? And, because I think sometimes when you feel down, you can, I certainly can get a little bit, going round and round and thinking about myself. But as soon as I start thinking about other people, I feel better. I feel more inspired, and I feel more connected to the world when I.
And I think that's, in the first lockdown, I had a list of people who would be my weekly calls and my daily calls, and it was just like that just hit the phones when I was out and about or whatever I was doing. And that's sometimes it is just phone calls. I mean, that's pretty much all we could do in the first lockdown, wasn't it? The phone call thing. And again, it's that connecting and helping people, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I suppose so. We're kicking off, on the first day of lockdown, with lots of broadcasts filling the Facebook feed and our Instagram feed, Psychologies magazine, for the next month to support the nation's mental health. And I want to say, we send you so much love out there. We're all in this together. Reach out. You don't have to be alone. I mean, maybe we're physically alone, but we're connected. We have, subscribe to Psychologies. You'll be part of our community. There is a free connected Psychologies Connected community, and be there. And we've got loads of live broadcasts like this with some of the best experts in the world. Rachel, my lovely editor here, is she's interviewing all of these brilliant, wise celebrities around how they're dealing with lockdown. We're also doing brilliant podcasts with Rachel, so she'll be recommending lots of podcasts for us along the way. So Rachel, thank you so much for your time today. Lots of
you.
Everybody out there, don't worry, we're going to get through this, and let's focus on what we can control versus what we can't. And we will find, 2021 is not far away. It's the end of the year, but we're nearly there. Lots of love, everybody. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.